everyone, and welcome to my 2022 AFL ladder and finals predictions. So we'll be going over where each team finished, their win-loss and draw ratio, the amount of points that makes, their percentage, a bold call for each team, a pass mark, and a stat about the team. So in 18th we have Hawthorn. Hawthorn will go 5, 15 and 2, being 2 draws, which will put them on 24 points and a percentage of 83.4. Hawthorn will score 100 plus points twice, and they need to come up with a consistent game plan and win at least 3 games after the bye to be successful in 2022. Hawthorn have not won a wooden spoon since 1965, and they have the third largest drought behind Geelong and Port Adelaide. Port Adelaide have never won a wooden spoon. In 17th, we have Collingwood. There's 16, 15 and 1. Well, I meant 6, but they'll be on 26 points and a percentage of 86.3. Only 2 Collingwood games will have a margin of 1 goal or less. They need to avoid the bottom 4, and they have never finished 18th. They've finished last, but they've never finished 18th. In 16th we have GWS. They're going to go 7, 14 and 1, which will put them on 30 points. And they'll get a percentage of 89.1%. GWS will be the least accurate team, kicking more than 2 times the behinds than they'll kick goals. They need to make the finals, and GWS have not finished bottom 3 since 2014. In 15th we have Carlton. Carlton will finish 7, 14 and 1 with 30 points and an 89.8 percentage. Carlton will have the most disposal for any team in the bottom 7. So that's any team 12th or lower. Carlton will have more disposals than any of those teams. Carlton will make finals. Carlton need to make finals, because every year for the last few years they've been saying they'll make finals and they never have, which is why I've put that as their pass mark. And I'll keep, until they make finals, I'll keep predicting them outside the finals and making their pass mark to make them. Either that or when they stop saying they're just going to make finals. And apart from 2013, where they made finals because one of the finals teams, Essendon, weren't allowed to, so they finished 9th, but they got to play finals anyway. But apart from that, Carlton have not made finals since 2011, which is over 10 years since they've made finals, because they've been one of the best 8 teams. St Kilda will finish 14th with a record of 7, 14 and 1. They'll finish on 30 points and a 91.1 percentage. St Kilda will keep a team to the lowest score of 2022 out of all the AFL teams. They will keep one team to the lowest score that any team will score in 2022. They need to bounce back and make the top 10. I reckon they might, but I just didn't know where else to put them. And St Kilda have the longest active premiership drought after Melbourne winning last year, having not won a premiership in 55 years. In 13th, we have Gold Coast. They'll finish 9 and 13 with no draws. they'll finish on 36 points and an 87.8 percentage. Took Miller and 3 other AFL players will win the Brownlow. So, for this bold call to be correct, not only does Took Miller need to win the Brownlow, but 3 other AFL players need to win the Brownlow. They will need to win at least 9 games and avoid the bottom 4, which I've got them doing, to have a successful season in 2022. And Gold Coast, highest finish was in 2014 when they finished 12th. I don't quite have them beating that, but I reckon if they stop being a bad team and actually do well, they might finish higher than 12th sometime soon. Speaking of 12th, we have North Melbourne in 12th. They finished 9 and 13, just like Gold Coast, meaning they finished on 36 points and a 97.7 percentage. North Melbourne needs two or more North Melbourne players will be in the All-Australian team. And I'm talking about the best 22, not the squad. The actual team. 2 North Melbourne players will be in there. And North Melbourne need to beat at least 3 top 8 teams. And one of those top 8 teams must finish in the top 4. North Melbourne have not won a minor or major premiership in the 21st century. West Coast come 11th. They will finish 9 and 13 with 36 points and a 91.1 percentage, which I think is the same as St Kilda's. West Coast will kick 14 plus goals in 2 consecutive games at some point this season. And that's 2 consecutive games that West Coast play, so that could mean West Coast kick 14 goals, have a bye, and then kick it 14 plus goals again. That will count. And I don't actually remember how many goals West Coast kicked in round 23 last year, but that will not count. They must all be in the 2022 season. Well, they must both be in the same season. And if they do it in 3 consecutive games, they will also count as correct. They need to prove doubters wrong and avoid the bottom 6, which I've got them doing. 2021 was the first time since 2014 that West Coast have missed the finals. Adelaide will finish 10th. They'll finish 9 and 13. They'll finish on 36 points with a percentage of 94.4. A Crows player will win the Common Medal this year, and they need to win at least 8 games and finish outside the bottom 4 to be successful this year. And since the 2017 Grand Final, Adelaide's highest finish was in 2019 when they finished 11th. In 9th, we have Richmond. They'll finish 9 and 13, meaning they'll finish on 36 points, with a percentage of 98.0. Richmond will start 3 and 0. They need to bounce back and make finals in 2022. Richmond have finished 9th the most since the introduction of the Final 8 final system in 1994. Richmond have finished 9th 6 times since they introduced the Final 8 system. Now we get into the top 8. And in 8th spot is Essendon. So they'll be playing finals. They finished 12 and 10, meaning they'll finish on 48 points and a percentage of 99.1. Essendon will get smashed by 100 points in the elimination final, and they need to repeat last season's efforts and make 2 consecutive final series for the first time since 1998 to 2004. That was the last time they made 2 or more consecutive finals series. And when Essendon play a final, depending on if there's a bye or not, there will be at least 6,564 days since Essendon will have won a final. Geelong finish in 7th. They will finish 12, 9 and 1 on 50 points and a percentage of 106.1. My bold call is Geelong will only win 5 or less games at Kardinia Park, and they play 9. So I've only got them barely winning half. And all their first 3 games at Kardinia Park will be losses. They must make a grand final this year, and Geelong have only made the grand final once since 2011, their last premiership. And in 6th we have Brisbane, who will finish 14 and 8. They'll have 56 points and finish with a percentage of 107. In 15 or more games, Brisbane will kick more behinds, and yes, I know I've spelled behinds wrong, than goals. Make top 4, and they'll need to make top 4 in the home and away season and make a prelim final. And Brisbane have never finished 3rd, 7th, 9th or 14th since they merged, which will be, I think that's after finals. I'm not 100% sure though. And Western Bulldogs, they will finish 14, 7 and 1. They'll finish on 58 points and 116.8 percentage. A Bulldogs player will win the Brownlow with Touk Miller and 2 other AFL players. They will need to win the premiership this year. It's quite simple. After losing in quite a disappointing game in the end, they will need to win the premiership this year. The Bulldogs have never won a minor premiership, and now we go into the top 4. So who gets a double chance? The first team getting a double chance, in 4th we have Freo. They finish 15 and 7, 60 points and 114.5 percentage. Now, most people will probably say that Freo making the top 4 would be a bold call in itself, but I've said Nat Fyfe will be kept to less than 11 disposals in 3 or more games. Freo need to make finals at the minimum, which I've got them doing, but that would be like Port Adelaide in 2020 when they weren't really expected to make finals. They needed to make finals, and they went out and made the top 4. Fremantle have not made finals since the last time they made the top 4 in 2015 when they won the minor premiership. And they also made a prelim that year. Melbourne will finish third with 16 and 6, putting them on 64 points and 126.5 percentage. Ben Brown will kick at least 10 goals in a game in one of the games that Melbourne plays this season. Melbourne will win back-to-back premierships. And the last time Melbourne went back-to-back was in 1959 and 1960. And of course, apart from last year, their last premiership was in 1964. In second, we have Sydney. They'll finish 17 and 5 on 68 points, just like Melbourne. And they'll have 119.5 percentage. Buddy Franklin won't kick his 7th career goal till round 7 against Brisbane at the SCG. And then he will finish the season with 1,042 goals or more. Meaning post round 7, he will be kicking 42 or more goals. Swans need to make the top 4 in the home and away season and then make a prelim. And Sydney have never beaten GWS in finals. They've played 3 finals against each other. And in top spot, we have Port Adelaide winning the minor premiership. They finished 17 and 5 on 68 points, just like Sydney. But they have 125.5 percentage, and 2 Port players will win the Brownlow. And Port need to make a grand final and not lose it by more than 30 points. Losing it by 30 points is fine, but losing it by 31 points is not. And I've already shared a stat that Port Adelaide have never won the wooden spoon, but they also won 3 consecutive minor premierships in 2002, 2003 and 2004. And Port Adelaide went on to win the premiership, the major premiership in 2004. And they also won the premiership in 2020. We'll just have a look at the ladder round by round. Okay, so let's now move on to the finals. In week 1, we have Port Adelaide versus Fremantle, Western Bulldogs versus Essendon, Brisbane versus Geelong, and Sydney versus Melbourne. So, first qualifying final, Port Adelaide versus Fremantle. So, it says that it's at the Adelaide Oval on a Thursday night. This is what I predicted based off, because COVID's unpredictable, so I've ignored COVID. And I've just gone off what it would be if there was no COVID or anything else that would change this. And I've also done it in a random order like they would in the actual AFL. So Port Adelaide beat Fremantle by 5 points and move into the prelim final, but Fremantle, in achieving their objective, making finals and absolutely smashing it, have earned themselves a double chance. So they will be playing the winner of this game, the first elimination final, Bulldogs v Essendon, on a Friday night at Marvel Stadium. I haven't actually thought of whether the roof's going to be open or not. I just thought of that now, actually. And the Bulldogs win by 112 points. I said Essendon would lose the elimination final by 100 plus points. Next, we have Melbourne v Sydney in the second qualifying final. After this, there are no more second chances. And Sydney win by 3 points and move on to the prelim final. Oh no, Melbourne win. Melbourne win and move on to the prelim final. Okay. So I thought that Sydney won. So that's... Oh, I said Sydney. And then I saw Melbourne in the prelim. I'm like, what? What's going on? Anyway, so Melbourne are in the prelim. And Sydney are not. They will play the winner of Brisbane v Geelong at the Gabba on a Sunday afternoon. And Brisbane win by 2 points. And they move on and play Sydney. So, finals week 2, the semi-finals. We have Port... No, we don't have Port. Port get a week off. We have Fremantle versus Western Bulldogs. Just a side thing. Fremantle's logo and Port Adelaide's logo look too similar. Why couldn't Port just keep the old logo? And we also have Sydney versus Brisbane. So finals week 2. Semi-finals. Sydney beat Brisbane by 32 points. Yes, Sydney do beat Brisbane by 32 points. And Sydney are in a prelim final against Port Adelaide. And Fremantle versus Western Bulldogs. This was so hard to decide. So I decided that there would be extra time. And in that first bit of extra time, Fremantle lead the Bulldogs by 7 points. But in the second bit of extra time, the Bulldogs make up those 7 points and whatever Freo score to tie up the game. Meaning it goes to a... I had to actually do the research on what would happen here. And it just goes to a golden score. Next team score wins. And the Bulldogs kick a behind and win the game by a point. Kind of an anticlimactic way to win the game, but it gets the job done. And I spent a little while deciding. Which puts the Western Bulldogs barely in the prelim final against Melbourne. Now, in the prelims, we have Port v Sydney and Melbourne v the Bulldogs. A grand final rematch from last year. Finals week 3, the prelim finals. In the first prelim final, we have Port Adelaide v Sydney. And I had such a hard time deciding the prelim finals. And by a very small margin, Port Adelaide beat Sydney by 1 point. And I've decided that it's going to be from an after the siren goal from Robbie Gray. He is just about the only Port Adelaide player I would back after the siren from pretty much anywhere that's a kickable distance, anywhere inside the forward 50. He is the only one that I would back anywhere inside the 50 to kick a goal after the siren. He's very good after the siren kicker. And that puts Port Adelaide into a grand final. It got to a point where I had such a hard time deciding that I decided to move on Port Adelaide because I'm a Port Adelaide supporter. And a grand final rematch to decide who goes in the actual 2022 grand final. And the Bulldogs also win by a point. We've had a lot of close finals, so if what I predict is correct, then we're going to have a pretty good final series. And it all comes down to the grand final. Port Adelaide versus the Western Bulldogs at the MCG on a Saturday afternoon at 2:30, like it has been pre-COVID. And at quarter time, Port Adelaide lead by 2 points. At half time, scores a level. At 3/4 time, Western Bulldogs lead by 4 points. And then, in the end, the Western Bulldogs win the premiership by a goal. And that is 2016 in 2022. They, like 2016, have won a premiership from outside the top 4. Thanks everyone for watching.